Welcome everyone to Generally Irritable with Erica Reddick. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've gotten to do a live stream and an interview with a really awesome guest, but I'm excited to relaunch the show after a little hiatus with Mr. Jay Shepard, the Republican National Committeeman representing Vermont. Jay, how are you this morning?
I'm absolutely wonderful. It's a great time to be an American, and it gives us an opportunity to participate because America needs so much help right now that, it kind of invigorates us.
That is true. It's interesting to hear you say it's a great time to be an American when it sometimes feels like everything is falling apart, like inflation and that all the border crisis and then Afghanistan and all this stuff. I love how positive you are.
Well, I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is that we cannot make any of those changes alone, that with God's help, we can do anything. And God is more than willing to help us if we ask for that help and if we're actually willing to listen to it.
You would be surprised how many people pray and ask for guidance and then don't like the answer that they get.
Yeah, God answers all prayers, just not the way you might want them or in a timely fashion that you think you need them.
When I want it done by. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Michael Valdez says good morning from his car in Burlington. Anybody, if you need a driver, call Mr. Michael Valdez, Top Cat. Michael, do you have a phone number or a app or something where people can call you to call for a ride? It's a great ride, y'all. Normally you get an Uber driver or a Lyft driver. You don't know who the person is. They're playing music that is terrible. Sometimes their car smells funny. It's not fun. Call Michael Valdez. Way better drive. I make him come from Stowe every time I fly back into Burlington so that I can get a good ride home. That is what I do. Love Michael. Okay, Jay, I asked you here today because I want to get people started thinking about next year's elections. Now, in Vermont, we're still redistricting, right? We won't know until January. Do you think when will the legislature finish with redistricting? When will we know Vermont legislative districts?
Well, it's a process, and it could go all the way until the spring. And there's some question about whether it'll be ready by April. So you can. One of the starting points with getting petitions and signatures is, I believe, April 5th. You can start doing that. So Hopefully we'll have an answer by then. How it works is the legislative the lab,
a portion. That is a hard word.
Yeah, that board has made its recommendations to the legislature. The legislature will then take a look at those and make their own recommendations. They can completely do their own. They can just accept it as it is. And it's completely up to the legislature at that point. Once they decide on something, it goes to the governor. The governor approves it or disapproves it. If the governor and the legislature don't agree on it, it then goes to judicial board.
Oh, okay.
And the judges will actually make the final decision on it if the House and the governor cannot agree. So this whole process can take quite a while with some negotiation that goes on and all of that. So we will definitely not have something in January.
Okay. So people, how are legislative candidates? I guess you just have to kind of start campaigning where you think you're going to be running.
Well, you're going to be running from where you live.
That's true.
So if you're happy where you live and you're not planning on moving, then you can pretty well start your campaign.
Just start knocking on doors like in a circular, like go to your neighbor and then just do a circular loop around your neighbor.
That's pretty much it. So one of the things that you have to be excited about right now, because this is the best time ever to run for a couple of reasons, especially as Republicans. Number one, what President Biden and our Congress and local authorities have done, whether it's school board or whether it's President of the United States, they have exposed themselves to who they are.
Yeah.
We have to be happy. Well, it's hard to be happy about the pandemic, But what the pandemic has done is it's put more people actively involved through Zoom meetings and all of that. So the Democrats have exposed themselves. They're talking about CRT in the schools. They can call it anything they want. It's still CRT in the schools.
Yes. It's still teaching children to look at everyone through race. It may not be CRT, but it's everything is revolved around race. That's the same thing.
If you ever use the word affinity group, you are using racist terms, because affinity basically is we're going to separate everybody according to something other than what they want to talk about.
Okay.
So whenever you hear that word affinity group, red flags should go up saying they're doing some racist things. They're doing things that are not in the best interest of our children.
Okay.
So it's a really exciting time because so many more people are aware of what's going on. The other exciting thing is that we just had a new census, which means new legislative districts.
Yep.
New people involved. Everything is starting from scratch. So there's a real new opportunity to start speaking about the issues, speaking to your neighbors, and being involved, because everyone is at an equal playing field right now, because the incumbents don't know what their districts look like either.
That's true. Well,
so some of that incumbency, and we've talked about it before, is that the typical people that had voted for them in the past may not be the ones that vote for them in the future. So the power of the incumbency isn't as strong as it once was, which gives new people an opportunity to get their message out to new people and not be restricted by the power of the incumbency. So it's a great time to run against an incumbent.
Isn't it something, I remember looking this up a long time ago. It was at least a couple of years ago. And it was something like in Vermont particularly, but nationwide, but this was in Vermont particularly, it was something like 80% likely that you were going to be reelected if you were already elected, which was a mind-boggling number to me.
Yeah, in some particular races, it's even higher than that.
Wow, that's wild.
And it's the power of the incumbency for two reasons. One is their ability to do constituent services, that they've helped people in the past.
Okay.
And when they've helped people in the past and you project that forward, there's an opportunity for them to raise more money from people who think they can get something from that.
That makes sense.
Official.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that elected officials can be bought and sold. I'm not saying they can't be, but I'm not saying that they are.
Well, no, but if you know, like as an example, okay, I was going to be petty. I'll just make up an example. I was going to use one of our current Congress people. If you know that they are favorable to a certain industry, as an example, like say we know that our current sitting Congress people are favorable to renewable energy type things. Well, then I know that if I have a renewable energy business or that is my priority, then I'll vote for them because I've seen them work in that area. Not necessarily because I think I can buy them, but because that's something that matters to me.
Well, and it's difficult sometimes to know the difference between a group supporting somebody because of their beliefs, or that elected official changes their beliefs based on who they can get support from.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So either way it works. I think one of the things, if you're thinking about running for office, there's a few things that you should do.
Okay.
One is take a look at what your strengths are and what your commitment can be in terms of time, energy, and abilities.
Yes, because everybody watching, I want everyone to run. I don't want a single seat to go uncontested this year, but running a campaign is a part-time job. It really is.
And in some cases, if it's a federal office or a statewide office, it can be a full-time job in the last 3 or 4 months of the campaign.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So the things you have to look at, one is, do I have the time and energy to do that position? Okay. Am I able to go to Montpelier from January to April? And can I survive financially? Because it probably doesn't pay as much as what you're making now. Will my employer allow me to take the time off to do that? And can I actually make a difference?
Yeah. So
those are important things. But getting back to the initial setup, you have to realize that you have to raise money.
Yeah.
And you have to run a campaign. And if you're not willing to ask people for money, you're probably not going to be successful in politics.
Jay, what is it with people? Because this is not the first time I've heard this. And, I've helped with campaigns in the past. And some people will say, oh, well, there's just no money to be gotten. And I'm like, yeah, but I also know you. And I happen to know that you won't go directly ask people for money. And I know for me, I said, okay, when I was running for office and I felt bashful, we'll say, to ask people for money, I said to myself, do I think I'm better? Do I think I can better serve Vermonters? And what I'm asking for is people to be in agreement with me. And their agreement with me is a donation, that they agree that I can do better. And they wanted to contribute because they felt like they were doing something to try to make a difference. Like, why wouldn't we want to just bring as many of our neighbors into that as possible?
I think that's a great point, Erica, that people want to be involved. Give you, for instance, my neighbors who live across the street from me are very liberal. And I don't know if your viewers know that I'm pretty conservative.
You are the RNC committeeman. I would make an expectation, but
yes, I am certainly a right-wing wacko. And proud of it, because there are certain things that I believe in that I will not give up.
Yes.
My neighbors across the street, we have babysat for their kids. We watch their pets, their animals. They are as liberal as you can possibly be. They have said to me two things. One, we love it when you put signs on your lawn because we know who not to vote for. But if you ran, we would vote for you.
Isn't that interesting?
And that's a personal relationship thing, that there's still trust in the fact that they can have a conversation. And especially if you're running for local rep.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how the issues don't matter as much as your likability. We get so tied up on the issues. And when you're running for office, your goal is to get elected. Your goal is not to educate. Your goal is not to convince people on the issues. Your goal is strictly to convince those voters to vote for you because they trust you, they like you, or they agree with you on the issues. But it's not about you convincing them on the issues while you're running.
That is wild, Jay. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say that before.
It's the most important thing when you go door to door. When you knock on the door, you say to them, "Hi, I'm Jay. I'm running for local rep to go to Montpelier to represent your needs. Tell me what you think is the most important thing I should be working on when I get to Montpelier."
Okay.
Our reps will go to the door, knock on the door, say, "Hi, I'm Jay. I am pro-life. I am for tight fiscal constraints in our government. I want your vote and your support." Okay, that's not going to get me elected.
No? Dang it, Jay. Dang it. Okay, so then how do you deal with, and this wasn't necessarily what we were going to talk about, but how do you deal with then overcoming, right? So if I say, hey, I'm Erica and I'm, what is it that matters to you? They're going to ask me what my platform is, and they're going to ask me what my party is and all that.
No.
So no.
Whenever you have conversation with somebody, what's the most important part of the conversation? It's what they want to say.
No, it's me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, let's take Erica out of the conversation for a minute and talk about regular people.
Yes.
They want to talk about themselves and they want to express their opinions. The problem is when we go in and we express our opinions first, it changes the whole dynamic of that interaction with someone. People want to talk about themselves. You can ask them questions. You can ask them, are things bothering you? Are you happy with how things are going with the schools? Are you happy with their roads? Are you happy with what kind of representation you're getting now?
Yeah.
Generally, you're not going to get a real answer.
Okay.
But you want them to initiate it. Now, let's say, okay, for instance, that I'm strongly pro-life.
Right.
And one of the projects I'm working on is the Proposition 5 referendum that's coming up next November.
Yeah.
It's consuming me because it probably, in my opinion, is one of the most important things we've ever done. When I go to the door and they say to me, well, the number one thing is a woman's right to choose.
Yep.
My response is not, well, if you think it's okay to kill babies, then you don't want to vote for me. Or,
oh, that's not what you're supposed to say. Don't say that.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
The thing is, that's a very interesting position. Tell me a little bit about why that's important to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not telling them that I'm pro-life. I'm not having that argument with them. There's a chance and an opportunity for me to convince them that they're wrong, but it's not while I'm running for office.
Isn't that interesting?
My goal when I'm running for office is to get their vote. Will I ever say to them, yeah, I'm pro-choice too? Absolutely, positively no.
Obviously.
You stick to your beliefs, you stay true to your values, but you are not there to impose your values or your belief system on a potential voter. If they like you and they think you will listen to them, there's a good chance they'll vote for you.
I feel like, Jay, that I don't know. I'm trying to think of my campaigns last year. I don't know that I did that well, to be honest. I don't know. I feel like I think I thought that I needed to tell everybody about me, everything about me, and then you pick. Like, that's what in my mind was like, I'm going to let you guys know about all the crazy stuff that's happening out there. And when you know about all the crazy stuff that's happening, you won't want to vote for these other people anymore.
Ooh, no.
No?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
And if you go and you ask them what position their legislator took on H57.
Right.
What are they going to say?
They won't even know. I bet they don't even know.
No clue. No clue. And you know something? And it's not affecting their day-to-day life. What's affecting their day-to-day life is whether their kids are coming home from school at the right time. Is their kids safe coming home from school?
Is there enough money, to pay for schools? Is there jobs? Are there jobs for me to make enough money to take care of my kids?
Yes. My wife and I have a very good understanding of decision-making in our household. I make all the big decisions. She makes all the small ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I decide on the federal budget. She decides on our household budget.
Yep.
I decide on our foreign policy. She decides on what car we drive. So it's all about the small decisions. And the small decisions are what's happening in that family and the dynamics that's happening behind that door.
Yeah.
So
this is fascinating.
Be open to that kind of concept, and you'll go a lot further. And it goes back to the whole fact is my liberal neighbors would vote for me.
Yeah.
And chances are, unless you're lecturing your neighbors, they'll vote for you too, whether you agree on the issues or not.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, Jay. And everybody watching, I have Jay Shepard, Republican National Committeeman, with me today, talking about the upcoming elections in 2022 and just kind of giving people some information about being a candidate and opening up conversation for people. So it's almost like I totally lost my train of thought because I tried to remember to reintroduce you, Jay. So forgive me. So
let's maybe we can get back to the process a little bit.
Yes. So and we're talking a lot right now about legislative positions, but for everybody watching, this is what I was going to say. Anybody who has any questions, make sure to write in the chat. You can ask Jay any questions you want. But remember, we're not just talking about legislative positions. A lot of times, those are the things that get a lot more attention. Obviously, our two upcoming congressional races have now shaken up, so that's a big deal. But people also need to remember that there is town select boards, there's city councils, there's your school board, which is we've really seen this year how important it is for people to be participating in their school boards. And those are not positions you have to have off the first half of the year for legislative session. Those are things that are, weekly, monthly meetings that you can roll into your regular life. But you were saying, let's go back to the process.
Yeah, I mean, there are other races that we don't think about much that can influence and lead you down the road. Library trustee. That's an elected position in some towns, library trustees.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay.
So take a look at all the ballot positions that you'll find. There are things like high bailiff. Most people don't know what the high bailiff is.
No idea.
Okay. It's usually an uncontested race. Whoever had it last time, the high bailiff's only job is to arrest the sheriff.
If the sheriff does something wrong?
Yes.
Shut up.
That is the main role of the high bailiff.
Okay.
It's an elected position. It's a partisan position, but it's something a lot of people don't think a lot about.
No, really not. Again, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And take justice of the peace. People don't usually run for justice of the peace. What do? They put their name on the ballot.
And then that's it. Do you know how many positions go uncontested in the city of Burlington? Jobs that you don't have to give up your life for. You don't give up your life for justice of the peace. That's not how it works. You do like 5 minutes of work a month for those jobs.
It's the Board of Civil Authority, and it can be an important position based on taxation. And I think with all the taxation things going on in Burlington and some other cities right now, it is very important justice of the peace. Yeah. If you stand at a polling place and hand your name to everyone that walks in as justice of the peace, you will have the most name ID of anybody running for justice of the peace.
Well, and it's like you and I have spoken before about state auditor. I cannot believe state auditor gets the least amount of votes for a statewide position, and people don't seem to care about it when that person is supposed to be auditing the state and city governments and making sure people aren't getting ripped off.
Well, very true. And they should be out there auditing nonprofits that the state government is funding in big numbers. And the most nonprofits of any other state in the country, whose executive directors by and large make at least a 6-figure salary. Yes, we probably should be auditing those organizations. It might be a good thing to do. So would you say a little bit about what you think about the upcoming congressional races next year? The fact that Leahy has decided to retire and that Welch is going to be seeking the Senate seat. I assume that means he has to vacate his House seat. Is that correct? Well, vacate a House seat isn't the correct terminology for it, because he'll continue to be our congressman until the next January.
Right.
So he will not be able to run for both.
Got it.
His seat will be up for re-election this year or in the next election. So what it does is it provides us with another opportunity, the way that redistricting does, to take a look at how we can fill 2 seats in our congressional delegation.
Yeah.
Some people think that Patrick Leahy retired years ago but didn't tell us. But really what he's done is he's worked very hard to hurt us. And Peter Welch once was a Democrat. I remember that. Yeah. Peter was actually a client of mine years ago when he was an ambulance chasing lawyer, and I did his television ads for him. What has happened is they've gone to Washington and become part of the progressive mob that is not listening to Vermonters anymore. And what they're doing is there's one Peter Welch in Vermont, and there's another Peter Welch in Washington.
Yes.
And he is part of the whole Pelosi, Schumer, progressive, taking this country where they shouldn't go. The opportunities are immense for us.
I've been really, especially the more I dig into Leahy and Welch in particular, how much they do that actually is not of benefit to Vermont. And I go, I thought that you guys got elected to go to Washington to represent us, to represent Vermonters and our interests as a traditionally primarily agricultural state, a primarily tourism state. And then you guys go and do stuff that hurts farms and tourism. and also act unethically, just generally.
The reason they go to Washington, Erica, is pretty simple. They go to Washington to get reelected. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, Erica, send me $100.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you back $20, and you need to be grateful. So
go ahead.
It's so simple because their whole goal is to be reelected. And they do what they can to get reelected by telling you anything they think you want to hear and by giving you back money that they say they're giving you.
Right.
Which you gave them 5 times as much, and they're sending you back, 20 cents on the dollar and taking credit for it.
It's very strange to me.
Yes.
It's very, very strange. We could get into the whole EB5 scandals and stuff later at another time when it's time to actually start fighting those legislative fights. What else? So I don't remember if I mentioned this yet. I am co-hosting a meeting on December 11th in the morning. Anybody listening, if you want to send me a direct message, I will send you the link to join us. It is just a conversation between potential candidates and former candidates to discuss what it's like running for office, get some ideas, get some direction, and just an opportunity for people to ask questions and explore. I know people can go to the Vermont GOP website and fill out the candidate consideration form. I don't remember what it's called, but the Vermont GOP website has a form you can fill out if you're considering being a candidate. You can let the GOP know. Where else can people go, or would you recommend people go to start exploring the idea and considering a run next year?
Well, go to VTGOP.org, which is the state website.
Yeah.
Go to the Vermont Secretary of State's website.
Mm.
And we don't have time to talk about it now, but it'll tell you what the filing deadlines are. It'll tell you how many signatures you need for each of the positions. It's not a lot. If you want to run 500 signatures, gets you pretty much any office that you want.
Those are the statewide.
50.
Yeah, I think it's only like 25 for school board for Burlington or something.
It's a small number. Yeah. It'll tell you what the contribution limits are.
Okay, yep.
It'll tell you filing deadlines for each of the positions. So go to the Secretary
of State's website, the elections section, that's where you're going to find all of that information. It's pretty easy to maneuver through, even though it is a lot. It's like taking a drink from a fire hose, but you can find pretty much anything that you need there.
Right. There's a tab that says candidates that you can click on.
Okay. And what else should we make sure we talk about before we close today, Jay, excuse me.
My email address.
Oh, yes. Share with the folks how they can get in touch with you.
It's jaytherepublican at AOL, JAY the Republican at AOL.com. You can go to my website where we're fighting the Proposition 5 referendum that allows 9-month abortions.
That's jshepard.com, right?
No, it is theyhavegone-too-far.com.
Okay. Theyhavegone-too-far.com, right? Because this is the thing. This is what's so funny. I know anybody that I talk to that considers themselves pro-choice, when you say, okay, well, do you know that Vermont now allows abortion up until the point of birth? And they go, oh, no, that's not okay. And I said, well, that's what the law is in the state of Vermont. And they go, well, how can that be? And so I think I love the name of that website. They've gone too far. Because when even staunch pro-choice people can say that's not okay.
And the polling that we've done is pretty clear. 70% of Vermonters consider themselves pro-choice.
Wow. Okay.
Only 30% think it's okay in third trimester. So 70% of the people have said that this new referendum that they're going to put in our Constitution, they have gone too far. So 70% of Vermonters agree with us that this legislation has gone too far. We just need to educate people and move forward.
Yeah. And I think that this is one of those things that will really get people out to the polls who maybe don't normally participate. If you can show them why it matters and how their vote will make a difference, it starts to encourage people. I've been talking to people about the Sarah George. Like I meet people all the time, Jay, I'm sure you do too, that say they don't vote. They don't vote because it's this and that and blah, 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 whatever excuse they have. And when I say to them, well, what do you think about all the shootings and the uptick in crime and the things that we're seeing in Chittenden County and across the state? And they say, oh, well, that's bad. And I say, well, that is a direct result of the lack of, or the bad leadership, the state's attorney in Chittenden County, who doesn't want to lock up violent criminals, who puts people who have crippled people from drunk driving, on probation for 6 months instead of locking them up after their third DWI and all this stuff. The attorney general doesn't think that people should be prosecuted, et cetera. Do you know that you actually elect those people or have the opportunity to elect those people in November? And they go, really? I do? And I go, yeah, that is an elected position. And you directly have the ability to make your community safer. Mm-hmm. And they just don't know.
They just don't know.
And, this is what I was going to say earlier, Jay. When you were talking about your neighbor, how they said, this is what I really want to push home to people before elections next year. I have had self-proclaimed socialists, capital S socialists, and self-proclaimed progressives, capital P progressives, call me over the course of this year and say, Erica, what is going on? People have lost their minds. They are crazy. This goes too far. Whether it's the abortion stuff, the private property rights, gun restrictions, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all of the things. So even self-proclaimed leftists are calling me saying that this is too much and it's not okay. And so what I say is to everybody now is, look, you may not think of yourself as a Republican. You may not have ever described yourself as a conservative, but the reality of the playing field right now is that if you can do math and be logical, you're basically a Republican. Like, you're on our team. And you, again, you may not think of yourself as a Republican, but you need to elect us to stop the bleeding.
That's a very good point, that most people are much more conservative than they want to admit that they are. They live a conservative lifestyle, but they believe that they have a need to help the unhuddled masses, the huddled masses, or all the different people that aren't as lucky as them. Mm-hmm. They don't have all the privileges that they have, so they feel as though they have to. We don't necessarily want to convince people to be Republican.
That is true.
What we want to convince them to do is vote Republican.
Yes.
Because they have gone out and they've told their neighbors, I'm a Democrat, I'm a progressive, I'm this, I'm that. And we don't want, it's hard for them to go to something else. Mm-hmm. But when they go in to vote, we want them to convince them to vote what is correct and the right thing to do, which is to vote Republican.
That's right.
They can come out after they voted for you and me and all the other Republicans and say, yeah, us liberals have to stick together because we care about people. And they can call me any name they want, but please vote Republican.
Amen. I think that's a great place to put in a pin in our conversation today. Thank you, Jay, for taking a minute to chat with my viewers and with Vermonters about getting prepared. And don't wait. This will be the last thing I say. Do not wait if you're thinking about running for office. Some people will tell you, oh, we don't do that until January. Oh, we don't make that decision until December. But I can tell you right now that the competition has already started their campaigns. They are already getting signatures. They are already out there raising money. They're already out doing the deal. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Go get them.
Yes. One other quick point I want to make. I hear all the time, well, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to be this. I'm not qualified. Is Joe Biden qualified to be president? And is Kamala Harris Kamala, whatever she wants to be called, Harris, qualified to be vice president? Is Peter Welch qualified to be the U.S. senator or a congressman? These people aren't qualified.
No.
Show that you care. Show that you have compassion for people, and you are qualified to run.
That's right.
You can also follow me on Twitter at JAY the Shepard 1.
Jay the
So
Shepard.
thank you,
1.
Erica. You told me 15 minutes. I guess I talked way too much. So
I know. No, this is good. This is good. I always think it's going to be less time, and then we get talking about stuff, and it's important. So hang on with me, Jay. I'm going to end the live broadcast. So Jay the Shepard 1 on Twitter, and then they've gone too far.com.
They have gone too far.
They have gone too far.com for the Prop 5 stuff. All right. Hold on with me 1 second, Jay.